Hey everyone, it's your girl Monica Leigh, and welcome back to another episode of the Drive Thru. First of all, if you are new, thank you for pulling up, and if you've been here from the beginning, you already know. So let's just jump right into it, because this is something that definitely needs to be discussed. Can we talk about the group chat? Because the group chat, as we know, it does not sleep ever. It doesn't take lunch breaks. It does not respect business hours. Definitely not that. And it does not care that your phone is on 5%. Not at all. It doesn't care also that you are trying to be productive. Maybe take a nap, watch a movie, spend time with your family, or simply sitting quietly without being summoned by 17 notifications. The group chat said, "Oh, you thought you were unavailable?" Oh, that's cute. Yeah, that's adorable. Because somehow the moment you put your phone down is the exact moment everybody, and I mean everybody, suddenly has something to say. You come back 15 minutes later, and there are 47 unread messages, 2 screenshots, a voice note, a video that says, "Watch until the end," and somebody asking, "Wait, what happened?" And now you have to decide whether you're going to scroll all the way back to the beginning or just type, "Can somebody just summarize for me, please?" Because let's be honest, you are not reading all of that. None of it. So, as I say, definitely pull up, because today we are talking about the chaos, the comedy, the misunderstandings, the unspoken rules, and the very real connections that live inside our group chats. So, as we dive into this subject matter, if you think about it, every group chat truly has its own personality, right? You have the family group chat, the friend group chat, the work group chat. You also have the "we all went to one event together and somehow this chat still exists 3 years later" group chat. I think I have 1 or 2 of those. You know what I'm talking about. Oh, and how about this one? The vacation group chat that was extremely active while everybody was planning the trip, and then became completely silent after people started owing money. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. And then there's the chat that was created for one specific purpose, but nobody talks about that purpose anymore. It kind of started something like planning Lisa's birthday dinner. Now, people are sharing recipes. You've got relationship updates. You've got job openings. You've got conspiracy theories and picture of somebody's dog. Mind you, Lisa's birthday was in 2023. And also at this point, Lisa isn't even in the chat anymore. Okay? However, just like the show must go on, the chat still lives on. And then you have every group chat that develops its own rhythm. Some chats are loud all day long, but, some are silent for weeks until somebody randomly appears with, "So, are we ever going to talk about what happened? Excuse me? What happened? Also, why are you entering the chat like the season finale of some television show or some new upcoming thing that we're all waiting to see where it goes," right? And then there are the chats where everyone sends full paragraphs. And I'm sure most of you can relate at some point that this has happened, that you've experienced this. And also, how about the chats where nobody uses actual words? It's just reaction emojis. First, you may get like a heart, then you might get a laughing face. And yeah, let's go ahead and throw in a pair of eyes. And honestly, the eyes emoji might be the most powerful form of communication available to us, because those two little eyes can mean, I'm listening, I agree, I disagree, but I don't have time today. I know something, you know something, we all know something. And sometimes it simply means, I am here for the mess, no words required. So like when we think about these scenarios, these examples, when we look back, we have been a part of at least one of these things, if not maybe multiple group chats. And now it seems like every group chat also has characters. First, you have the person who responds immediately as soon as that first question or that first comment. That person is like wanting to get to the first comment, like they're on some game show trying to make sure that they beat out everybody else. You could send a message at 2:14 in the morning and they answer at 2:14 in the morning, which raises questions. First of all, why are you awake? And were you already holding the phone? Like, what? And do you have notifications implanted directly into your nervous system? And then you have the person who takes 3 business days to respond. They'll finally appear on Thursday and answer something everyone discussed on Monday. They'll say, yes, I agree. Agree with what? We have moved on, ma'am, sir, right? I mean, the issue has been discussed, resolved, reopened, and discussed again since then. Like, we are so far past that. Please catch up. And then there is the person who never talks, but sees everything. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. We all have a friend that's like that. Family member, colleague. We always have that one person, right? They don't respond. They don't react. They definitely don't contribute. But somehow later on, they know every single detail. Oh, so you were there. Quietly observing, maybe taking notes. Very sneaky. And then there's also the person who sends voice notes that are far too long. Let me just pause right there, because I myself, Monica, is very guilty of that. And for me, I think that I just do it because, listen, nobody nowadays, people's attention spans, they are not made to read a whole text novel these days. Let alone we're trying to, encourage people nowadays just to read books, and good books at that, So yes, I am guilty of that, because in my mind, I'm thinking if I just send you an audio text, number one, I feel like you would engage with it more, but also my friends, my family, people that know me know that talking, I'm good at that. Let's move on. But again, the person who sends the voice notes that are far too long, right? You press play and see 6 minutes and 42 seconds. 6 minutes and 42 seconds? I mean, do we even call that a voice note anymore? I mean, that's an episode. You're waiting for like the commercial breaks to appear, right? Who's the sponsor on this? I mean, let's be serious here. And do I need headphones? Should I make a snack first? And, there's always somebody who sends a video with absolutely no absolutely no content, no introduction, no explanation, just a video. Now I'm staring at my phone wondering, is this supposed to be funny? Or is this supposed to be serious? Or maybe, am I supposed to be concerned? Or do I need to turn the volume down before I press play, right? Because we've all learned that you cannot casually open every video in public. You cannot do that, right? When one of your friends, and you've got that one friend, you've got different friends. So when they send you something, what types of things that they're probably going to send you. But you always got those few friends that you have to either make sure that you are not in a professional space where you just may need to do a sound check to filter out anything that comes across as, let's just say, things that need to be censored, right? We all have a friend like that, or two. So some lessons only need to be learned once. And then there's the person who changes the chat name every time something happens, right? The chat, it starts as besties. Then somebody gets into a relationship and suddenly, somehow, it's she finally found somebody. Then they break up and now it's we never liked him anyway. Group chats preserve history. They really do. As annoying as they can be, at the same time, they can be funny and interesting and entertaining, right? They can also be messy, time-stamped, and they definitely have a searchable history to them. These things that we think about, and we don't really think about them until we let ourselves actually reflect and sit with us on that. It's almost like annoying and amazing at the same time. I mean, I'm here for it, right? I'm definitely here for it. Let's take it a step further. How about when you are missing some of the messages, and I'm not talking about 1 or 5, you get a notification that you have missed 87 messages. There is a specific type of stress that comes from seeing 87 unread messages, because now you have choices. Do you start at the beginning? Do you start at the end? Do you search for your name to see whether anybody mentioned you, right? Because that's actually a real thing, and that's a real priority. So you open the chat, you type your own name into the search bar and think, before I invest my time, let me make sure I'm not involved. Let me just actually make sure of that first. And then sometimes you scroll through all 87 messages only to discover that the entire conversation was about something completely unnecessary. So like somebody saw a celebrity at the grocery store, or somebody else doesn't believe it was really them. Now there are screenshots, outfit comparisons. Oh, let's not forget the location details and a full investigation. We have now assembled a task force, but no one asked us to. But here we are. And the worst part is when you finally catch up. You write a thoughtful response, press send, and everybody has already stopped talking. They have stopped that conversation. Now your message is just sitting there by itself, alone and exposed, very exposed. It's now looking like you entered an empty room and started giving a speech. That's when you quietly put that phone down, put it down, and just pretend none of it happened. Also, can we talk about when two people start having a completely separate conversation inside the group chat? It's like, why? We already have multiple people invested. They are invested into this group chat. And now you are just switching everything up. Now everybody else is receiving notifications while they discuss something that could have been handled privately. You got one person saying, well, what time are you leaving? The other person says probably around 4. And then, are you stopping at the store? Maybe. Do you need anything? At this point, please text each other directly. And I know we have all been in that situation, or we just leave that chat, right? Because it's like, you don't have time for that. You've just inserted things that, are not even relevant to what we were speaking about to begin with. And so there are 9 other people trapped inside this conversation. We did not ask to accompany you to the store. End of story. It's so funny because at the same time, on another way of looking at it is, the group chat, it can also feel like home. Okay? Because underneath all of the jokes, group chats, they can become something meaningful. That is the truth. And for a lot of people, they are a little digital gathering place. That's what we'll call it. Okay? Especially because we might not all live near one another. We have different schedules, different responsibilities, and definitely we all have completely different lives. But the chat creates a space where everybody still checks in. And that's actually very refreshing. It really is, right? Because sometimes it's nothing deep, okay? It's a morning meme or a picture of dinner, even a random thought, a quick, did everybody make it home? And I really like that one too, because even being an adult and having adult friends and a grown child, I always sit there and think to myself, no, I'm still the same person. And that is, hey, can you text me when you get home? Or can you call me when you get home? Just let me know that you got home safely. That's a very powerful thing. And sometimes I think we do take that for granted, because when people are saying that to you, it also is letting you know that they care about you genuinely. Those messages, they matter. More importantly, they matter, especially as life gets busier for a lot of us. When people are balancing work, they're balancing their kids, school, relationships, caregiving, health, and everything else and in between, it definitely becomes harder to gather in person as often as we might like. The group chat doesn't replace real connection, but it can help maintain it. It can definitely help maintain it. It says, I saw this and thought about you. We've all got something like that, right? Somebody had said, would send us a picture of maybe like your favorite type of food because they know maybe you love Italian or you love, a nice, home cooked meal, and they thought of you. Or I wanted you included, or I'm just checking on you, or even simply, I'm still here. And sometimes, that quick message is the thread that keeps people connected during seasons when everybody is truly moving in different directions. Because one thing is for sure, friendship and family relationships, they don't always require a huge conversation every single day. Sometimes connection looks like sending somebody a ridiculous video and knowing they'll understand exactly why it reminded you of them. Please know that most certainly counts, okay? And then On the flip side of things, what about when the chat doesn't feel good, right? What about when the group chats are not always harmless, okay? They can also make people feel excluded. They can make them feel ignored and maybe just overwhelmed. There's a moment when you realize there's another group chat without you. Now, whether you actually wanted to be in that chat is not the point. The point is that you discovered its existence. And suddenly your brain says, oh, so there is such thing as a side chat. Okay. And then you think to yourself, interesting. Nobody likes discovering they've been placed outside of the information circle. That goes for any of us, especially when it's within a group chat that, we've always been a part of, or we've always felt like we've been part of the conversation, right? And engaging. But sometimes it's innocent. Maybe that chat was just created for a specific reason. Maybe somebody, honestly, simple mistake, they just forgot to add you. But sometimes exclusion is intentional. And honestly, that can hurt. And that's something, I feel that we all should take a good look at sometimes. If it's truly slipped by, been overlooked, it happens. Life happens. But it poses, a conversation to think that maybe it really was intentional. And again, that can hurt and it doesn't feel good. So the same is true, though, when someone keeps trying to participate, but also nobody acknowledges what they are saying within that group chat. They post something and then there's silence. Nobody's responding, nobody's reacting, nada. And then 10 minutes later, another person posts something and suddenly, miraculously, everybody is active. That can make someone question whether they belong in that space at all. And yes, this is true. Sometimes people are just busy, right? Sometimes messages can get buried or hidden. Not every unanswered text is personal. That is the truth. But please keep in mind, patterns do matter. Okay? If someone is consistently ignored, dismissed, or only contacted when something is needed, that is not a connection. Okay? That is not a connection. That is what we call convenience. We joke about, group chat behavior. Okay? But we should still pay attention to how people are treated inside those spaces. Because honestly, digital communication is still communication. It might be in a different form, but digital communication is still a form of communication. And there are real people on the other side of that screen. So just something to think about. And also, another thing, talking about the group chat, boundaries. There's a lot of times where people aren't even realizing that group chats, they still should have boundaries, right? Access doesn't mean availability. Let's be very clear on that. Access does not mean availability. And just because someone is in a group chat does not mean they are available 24 hours a day. Some people silence notifications because they need peace. That does not mean they're angry. There's a lot of times where people project and they assume the worst. But there is such a thing of just people needing their peace. It does not mean they've left the friendship. It means their phone has been vibrating for 4 straight hours and they would like to hear themselves think. And that is okay. And there are people who feel pressured to respond immediately because everyone can see that they read the message, right? That little seen notification has started arguments that never needed to exist, right? I'm sure everybody that's listening right now can look back and say, that's true, right? You saw my message. Yes, I saw it. I did not have the mental capacity to answer it yet. And also, let's be reminded that seeing and responding are 2 different activities, okay? Sometimes you open a message while standing in line, sitting in a meeting, making dinner, or even just trying to remember why you walked into a room, okay? You think, I'll answer it in a minute. Then 3 hours pass. It happens, okay? It happens. We have to allow people room to have lives outside of the screen. And healthy relationships should be able to survive a delayed response. Okay? And if something is truly urgent, guess what? Just say that. Don't type, call me. And especially with no explanation, because now you've caused unnecessary anxiety to whoever you sent that message to. Their heart rate has increased. Give them something. More like, call me when you have time. Nothing is wrong. So it's allowing you to be intentional. You are being very direct, but you're also reiterating that there's nothing wrong. It's not urgent, right? And you know what I mean? There's a difference. It gives more of a peaceful vibe, right? That sentence could literally save lives, or at least prevent unnecessary panic. Another thing is tone, right? Misunderstandings, and then what I call the dangerous period. Text messages do not come with facial expressions. Let me say that again. Text messages do not come with facial expressions. They don't always carry a tone, but somehow we have it in our mind made up that it does. And that is how a perfectly normal message can suddenly look aggressive, especially when someone uses a period. For instance, if you put okay and you put a period behind it, why does that look angry? It is technically correct punctuation. And, that's how, with me growing up, that's how we were taught in school. Before texting was a thing, it was proper punctuation. And in a group chat, okay with a period behind it feels different from okay with an exclamation point. One says, sounds good. And then somebody else would say, I have documented your betrayal. Then someone responds with fine. Oh no, fine. Let's be very clear. Fine is rarely fine. Now everybody is, trying to figure out what happened. And sometimes nothing happened, right? The person was simply typing quickly. But because we can't hear their voice, we assign our own tone. We read the message based on our own mood, okay, our assumptions, and whatever else we're carrying that day. That's why certain conversations should not happen inside a group chat. Especially if emotions are high, please just talk directly to that person. Call them. Ask what they meant. Don't bring 12 people into a misunderstanding that started because somebody used the wrong emoji. Now, guess what? Everything needs an audience. Okay? And guess what? It doesn't. It doesn't. And honestly, not every disagreement needs a screenshot either. Let's do better with that. Some conversations, honestly, should remain between the people that are involved. That's the bottom line. Group chat loyalty should not require turning someone else's private moment into community entertainment. It's not nice. It's not fair. It's not necessary. Okay? Privacy still matters, even when the chat feels safe. Respect the boundaries. Respect people's privacy. And again, one-on-one conversation does not need to involve or interfere anybody else besides the two people that need to be having that conversation. But sometimes the group chat becomes serious very quickly. I know that, again, there are some of you that can definitely understand this, right? Like someone loses a loved one. Someone receives difficult news. Someone is struggling. Someone simply says, I'm not okay today. And suddenly the jokes stop. People start checking in, offering help, sending encouragement, making plans, showing up. And that is when you realize the chat was never just memes, gossip, and random videos. It was, in fact, also a network. It was, in fact, a small community, a place where someone could reach out without having to contact 10 people individually and repeat the same painful story 10 different times. There is something powerful about people saying, we've got you, right? You feel that. You feel it. Or don't worry about dinner. Or I'm coming over. Or how about call me whenever you are ready. The group chat can be loud. It can be messy. It can be distracting. And occasionally it can be exhausting. But when it holds genuine care, please remember, it can also become a reminder that we don't have to carry everything alone. And most importantly, that part matters. It matters. So, yes, the group chat, it never sleeps. And it may be chaotic. And it may have entirely too many notifications. There may be 5 conversations happening at once. One person sending 12-minute voice notes and somebody asking a question that was already answered 20 messages ago. But it can also hold laughter. It can hold history. It can hold support. And most importantly, it can hold connection. The real question is not whether group chats are good or bad. It's what kind of space we're creating inside of them. Are people included? Are boundaries respected? Can someone be honest? Can someone step away without being punished? Can we laugh together without making someone else the joke? Because even inside something as casual as a group chat, how we communicate, it still matters. And that is important. So you know what? Send the meme. Share the update. React with the eyes. Just remember to read the room along with the messages. Whew, that was a lot. This was a good one, you guys. This was a good one. Listen, as always, I appreciate each and every one of you for showing up and hanging out with me on another episode of the Drive Thru. I mean, also maybe before you go, check your phone because you might just have 23 unread messages waiting for you right now. So if this message resonated with you and you think maybe, just maybe, you might have 1 or 6 people, whether they're in or out of a group chat, send this to them and let them have a listen. So, as always, I thank you again for pulling up to listen and hang out with me. And until next time, don't forget to show up and pull up, same time, same place. And of course, most importantly, don't forget to take care of you. And I will see you all soon. Bye.